You're watching and listening to the latest Red and Blue review show. For all your Crystal Palace related chat, please like and subscribe across all the usual social media platforms, especially our YouTube channel. This really helps us out. Now, let's get on with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening and a warm welcome to our last show before Christmas, to the Red and Blue Review. My name is Nick Philpott, with a better voice this week. I'm sure you'll understand. In fact, by the end of the next hour, you might even be sick and tired of my current voice. So I'm sorry about that. I make no apologies for that. We are going to be covering the KuPS game, making no mugs about us, okay? And we'll also be covering the Leeds team, the Leeds game yesterday, which was obviously a couple of very disappointing results. Joining me on the show this evening are my wingmen and women, as always, and I can't do without them. Before I get into them, thank you to Nigel Croucher, who's in the background producing this evening, who's done a sterling job for this team this year. Nigel, happy Christmas to you and your family. Thank you, mate. Joining me is Ian Noble. Good evening, Lord Noble. How are you, mate?
Hello, Nick. Good evening. Good evening to you. Good evening to everybody joining us on the chat. So, yeah. Not the best of weeks, but we'll unpack it all as we go through this podcast, of course.
Yeah, I can see everybody coming through. Paul and Mark and Graham. Good evening, guys. I can see you all coming through. Charlie. Yasmin Broom. It's so lovely to have a nice face on it, apart from the horror show, which is the rest of them. Good evening, my lovey. How are you?
Evening. I'm good. I'm really, really shattered, but good. Yeah.
And you are also my hero for that trip that you did yesterday. Well done. And in fact, to all the Palace fans that make that trip yesterday, especially absolutely as he's doing, he's raising his glass. Paul Gear, my stat man. Okay, I know he's going to bring a bit of normality to the show this evening when Philpott goes into one later on. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. As Yasmin said, we went to Leeds yesterday. We all got very early to come back early this morning, try and get out of that city after that debacle last night. But
yeah, well done.
Come on to that.
Yeah, well done to each and every one of you. And Tim, our FAB representative. Good evening, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Nick. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all.
And the scariest thing that happened to me this week, folks, okay, bear in mind, I was poorly last week and we've had a couple of crappy results. The scariest thing that happened to me this week is Tim Richards said in one of our group chats, I actually agree with Nick Philpott on subjects that we'll be covering later on. I had to go and boil my head after that point. But there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to crack on with the show. We're just going to touch on the European game and the ramifications of that European game because obviously now it exacerbates the issue of more games for us to squeeze into a very tight schedule. Oliver Glasner has made it quite clear that the 15th of January is a very important part of our future, where he's going to be sitting down with the board. A lot more on that topic later on, and then one of the guys will be covering the KuPS game. Who's doing the Leeds game? Who's doing the KuPS game? I can't remember. Tim, I'm going to leave it to you for the next couple of minutes. While you're doing that, folks, don't be alarmed if I go off screen. I'm just going to get a glass of water to wash down the vocal cords.
Nick, I'm doing Leeds. You asked who was doing Leeds. So
who's doing KuPS? Sorry.
Yeah.
I am, but look, you go and get your glass of water and we'll just crack on, all right? So off you go.
Off you go.
So, guys, a night under the Sellers lights last Thursday evening. And before we get into the game, of course, we do need to talk about this lineup because it took most of us by surprise. We knew there were going to be changes, but we didn't quite appreciate there would be this many changes. Notwithstanding the fact that Oliver Glasner had already said that no two players would start against both KuPS and Leeds. I still feel that we were hard done by it, having to play the Leeds game. Paul will tell us the reason why that is in a minute. But look, we shouldn't have been asked to play two games in 48 hours, but we did. And the way Glasner managed it is that he thought he could go with a second string, basically, against KuPS. So the lineup is Benitez in goal, and players that we hadn't heard of, and I'll come and just talk about these guys in a minute. Benamar on the left wing back, Sosa play right wing back, Cambo, Lerma had the armband, and a young lad called George King played right centre back. In the middle of the park there was Caden Rodney, Devene, and then SA, and Uche was up top with Joel Drakes Thomas in the 10 on the left-hand side. So there's our starting 11. There they are, posing for the picture. And what a nice moment for some of those young Palace lads.
Absolutely.
Academy graduates, one even younger than that, who's not even graduated from the academy, Joel Drakes Thomas, at just 16 years of age. So it was. I tell you what, one of the things that it was a real positive from this game, and I hope you'll all agree with me, is the way the youngsters acquitted themselves, came through the game, and just fitted into the team and played really well, all of them. And Glasner said as much. You'd go along with that, yes, I guess, would you?
Absolutely. I thought it was brilliant, and they all did really well. You couldn't fault any of them. And I thought maybe it's a good chance, where we haven't used the academy as much and people have criticised that over the last couple of seasons. I think it was a good opportunity for Glasner to see, actually, it's not so bad if you do that. I know it didn't go how we wanted, but I wouldn't say it was down to them. So I think they did really well. And I think that reflected in who he brought on at Leeds as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So before the game, KuPS were on 6 points, sitting just below the automatic, the qualification for the playoffs, and we were on 9 points, just below the automatic qualification for the next phase. And of course, we'd won 3 games and lost 2 in the previous 5 group games. We're going to this one knowing that we've got to win to guarantee that automatic qualification, I suppose, without the playoff fixture. And that was always the aim, as I said, notwithstanding the fact that we fielded a second string side. And what a great start to the game. I mean, Uche's goal, you can just watch this on repeat. Devene feeds him and he turns, he's on the edge of the box and he curls this most delicious shot. You all have seen it. If you're watching the pod, you'd have seen it. I think this is one of the best goals I've ever seen at Selhurst Park. The way he curls it with the outside of his right foot, bends it past the goalkeeper. It takes your breath away. Absolutely fantastic goal on, is that 5 minutes, I think it was, wasn't it, when the goal went in? So a really great start to the game for Palace.
That technical ability to be able to do that at such a young age, Ian, to the point when I first saw him do it, and obviously I watched it live. When I first saw it, I thought he was trying to cross the ball with the outside of his foot. That the way he spun and his balance to get the curl on that ball was just, as you quite rightly point out, it's something I've never seen at Selhurst Park before.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go as far to say that is for me, for Palace, the goal of the season so far. Paul, would you agree with that, or can you think of a better goal this season?
There's not many better. We've had a couple of good goals. I mean, obviously Pino scored a great goal at Wolves. We've had some good goals, but yeah, as an individual piece of technique and such, I mean, as I say, it was audacious as well, because you wouldn't think to try that. It was totally off the cuff, totally. And I mean, anyone who follows me on Twitter will know that I did something which I never do. I tweeted during a match about how good the goal was, because it was that good. And yeah, the best start we could have had.
Yeah, absolutely. And we go into the break at 1-0. I'm not going to talk about too much what else happened in the first half. There's no point going over it. I'm just going to talk about the goals from Thursday evening. And as quick as we were out of the blocks in the first half, KuPS had a bit of a rocket up them, because they came out in the second half attacking the Whitehorse end. I thought their fans were fantastic, by the way, really good support. Apparently that's the most fans they've ever taken to an overseas game, I read somewhere. And they walked from Thornton Heath and they marched down the road with their black and yellow colours, making a nice noise. All in good spirits, by the way. There was no trouble at all. But 5 minutes into the second half, one of their players runs almost unopposed from the halfway line, from his own half, plays in a colleague who just pulls the ball back, and it's a shot from around the penalty spot, and it's 1-1, and it's suddenly game on for them. And we can't quite believe that we've conceded so easily. And as Glasner said in his post-match, we sort of just switched off for about 15 minutes.
Ian, with that picture on screen, Nige, do you question a little bit Benitez's positioning there? He's got an awful.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I don't think you can criticise the keeper too much. But I just think we didn't do enough to stop him. Basically, didn't do enough to stop the run, and they got the goal. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. So about 3 minutes later, actually, they had a corner, and it was a deflected shot, and it went in a bit. And the deflection, I think, beat Benitez, and that's on 52 minutes. And suddenly we're 2-1 down. And we're thinking, oh, my goodness, it's Larnaca all over again. And we've really got an uphill struggle now to qualify. And it was a struggle, wasn't it? Because it took a red card from one of their players. He went through on Hughes. He went high on Hughes. And the referee had no hesitation at all in brandishing the red card. And suddenly we're playing 10 men. So in theory, that makes it easier for us. But just about 2 or 3 minutes later, we did equalise. And it was that lad, Joel Drake's Thomas on the left-hand side. He feeds Mitchell, who crosses brilliantly. Tyrick Mitchell's cross was just on the money for Justin Devaney to get between the two defenders and head home for the equalising goal on 75 minutes. So we've got to be pleased with the way we came back into it. The youngsters didn't last, of course. They all cramped, as Oliver Glasner has already said. They all cramped on about 60 minutes, and they were replaced, apart from Drake's Thomas, who played the full 90. I just thought the lads really did themselves proud, the youngsters. And Drake's Thomas got his minutes, of course, up at Leeds as well, off the bench. So the 2-2 draw meant that we finished the campaign on 10 points. It means that we finished in 10th place outside the top 8. And it means that we face this 2-leg playoff tie in February. I think they're 19th and 26th of February are the dates. And we already know that our opposition are going to come from, I think it's the Czech Republic or Bosnia. I think I'm right in saying that. And I don't even want to attempt to pronounce the names of these sides. Olomouc, Zrinski, or something like that. But it's one of those, and we play the away leg first, and then we bring them back to Selhurst Park for the second leg. So 2 extra games. And we really are doing this the hard way in the Conference League, aren't we? Because we had the playoff game against Fredrikstad first, and there are the match stats for the benefit of the podcast. Let me just read them out to you. So we have 56% possession, 14 shots, 6 on target, 10 corners. Free kicks 14. So we had the as you would expect, we had more possession than they did, but not huge amounts more. It wasn't like a team that sets up with a really low block has about 25%. It was nothing like that. They came to play and they got their point, which means they qualify as well for the knockouts. So both teams qualified, but it wasn't the way we wanted to do it, Nick.
Yeah, a couple of things. Don't forget they also had an opportunity before we scored to go 3-1 up, and that was disallowed by, I think it was disallowed by VAR in the end. And also the other thing is, the thing that hurts about it more than anything else was that I think personally, did the manager underestimate the quality of KuPS? I mean, they'd won their own division. He put KuPS for no mugs. Yeah, very good. Mark had already done that gag at the top of the show. KuPS, I honestly feel is what he did there was he went too wild with it. Maybe he should have included a couple more experienced lads like a Hughes, maybe a Geehee at the back. Okay, the thought process was that they're a pub team. Well, they clearly weren't a pub team. I think that's very unfair on them. They came and played a good game. They didn't play the low block, as you quite rightly said. Paul, you wanted to make a point?
Yeah, I don't think we underestimated him. I think he was going to play that team regardless because of the Leeds and Arsenal fixtures. I did one. He'd said before even Dublin that this was going to happen, and I think the fact that the Dublin game actually got us to a lot closer to where the top 8 than we thought we'd be. I thought he might renege on that and play a couple of them, but I think he made it quite clear that was what he was going to do. I think whoever we were playing, I think he basically accepted we were going to do a playoff game, which was a shame in some ways, and. Last night's result and Tuesday's result will ultimately determine whether that was the right decision, because I think he's just basically thought, well, 2 more games down the road, we can worry about that later. And
okay, yeah. The main topic of conversation during the course of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, will be team squad depth and managers' choices and the board and everything else. However, what it clearly indicates to me is what we've already known. Yeah, if you're going to be a challenging top 6 team, you need to have a squad with 2 players in every position. Clearly, we don't.
I mean, look, there is a school of thought that says he should have started a stronger side, and tried to do what we did at Shelbourne and go 2 or 3 up in the first half and then ease off. There is a school of thought that says that. Whatever we think, it's happened. We can't change it, so it doesn't really matter. But I think he gambled and it nearly paid off. We were close, weren't we? Let's be clear. Even at 2-2, Devere had another couple of chances. He was playing right wing back by then, sort of up top, wide right, and we had chances to win it, but we didn't take them. So, I'm not going to criticise them too much. I'm not going to criticise Oliver Glaston too much. I don't think it just didn't pay off. But if we'd started Gahey and we started Hughes, and one of them picked up an injury and was out for a while, everyone would have been up in arms about it. So you almost can't win whichever way you turn.
Could I ask you a question? Did young Joel Drakes-Thomas get man of the match that night?
Believe he did, yeah. He was great. He was really good. Really good.
And he's actually in the is it under 16s? I know he's played a couple of games for the older teams, but that's go on, Paul.
Yeah, he's 16, and I think to highlight how well he did, I mean, he played very well, but obviously, as we said, he'll probably come on to it. He came on at Leeds, but he was too young to have a sponsor on his shirt because he couldn't have a betting sponsor on his shirt.
But he did have a sponsor on against KuPS.
Yeah, I know. So you're a different rule in Europe.
Yeah,
it just shows how young he is in the Premier League. He's made his debut, it's brilliant, and that was on the back of a very good performance.
Some very decent prospect, yes, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even yesterday, I think he did more than some of them that have been on there for the whole time did when he came on for those few minutes. He looks really promising.
There's a very good article in The Athletic about him, actually. So if you are, a subscriber to The Athletic, make sure you read it. I'm not going to read it all out now, of course, but they talked about the fact how mature the performance was. They talked about the fact that he's been with the club since he was about 6 years old, and he's always played at the. He's been playing in his age group, and he's only recently he's gone up and played above his level. So the first time he played at Sellers Park was the other week when they played Bradford, I think it was, in the FA Youth Cup. That was the first time he'd ever played at Sellers. So the 16-year-old is playing in the under-21s. It's upper level. Obviously, playing in the first team is up 2 levels, arguably 3 levels. So he's definitely a bright prospect.
He's also a Palace fan as well. Okay, and he's a supporter. Yeah. Listen, if you or any of you from his family are watching, you can reassure him from everybody on the Red and Blue Review. We are super proud of him. Okay, yeah, good luck to him, and good luck to whatever your future brings, because you deserve all the accolades you're getting at the moment, young man. And hopefully you'll sign a 30-year contract with us and stay with us for the rest of your life. We're going to move on because we've got obviously quite a large talking point coming up. Timbo, in your normal jolly self, can you talk us through the Leeds game, please?
Yeah, it won't take long. Do you want to stick up the starting lineup, please, Nige? So as you can see, back to what you would consider normal. Henderson, Klein, Richards, Lacroix, Gahey, Mitchell, Wharton, Hughes, Pino, Nketiah and Mateta. Kind of what I expected, but I think what it does show is the fact that he's picking Klein over Sosa kind of sums up, I think, what a majority of people are saying about Sosa. But yeah, so the game started. I mean, much like Ian, we all saw the game. Basically, from the word go, for whatever reason, we just weren't at the races. Leeds were just stronger, quicker, faster, wanted it more than us. Second balls they won, challenges they won, knockdowns they got. The defence wasn't up to it, but all 4 goals basically from set pieces. I mean, Calvert-Lewin, the first one, 38 minutes, long throw, headed on by Richards, which is unfortunate, close range shot. So basically great save from Dino, but then he's there. And you look at all the Palace players around, none of them reacted quick enough. Again, as happened all game. Then we went on to, I think it was 45 minutes plus 4, I think it was. Again, Eddie Nketiah had a lot more time than he took to make a clearance, and he just didn't concentrate, or he just hoofed it, which gives him another long throw, and the old rinse repeat, where a long ball came in, the Leeds player at the front, easy head back. I think it was Wharton, didn't go with Calvert-Lewin, the one player you don't want to leave unmarked. Straight through, simple goal, 2-0, half-time.
I do question that, Tim. I'm going to, Nigel, put that photo back up, please. I do question our two centre halves at that point. Have a look at, for those of you listening back on the pod, the number 6 Mark Geehey and Chris Richards are absolutely nowhere where the flight of the ball is going. They're not even marking other players. Hughes is marking the other player, and Lacroix's marking the other player. Yeah. But Richards and Geehey are nowhere near the flight where that ball is going to end up. And and it's been left to Adam Wharton, who's not a defender, let's be honest. Okay. Correct. And go on in.
I mean, I just can't understand how Geehey and Richards can switch off like that, because they're such good players. Normally they don't. It's so uncharacteristic of them to do that. And Calvert-Lewin scored 1. Okay, so we've come unstuck. That first goal, you could argue, is a bit of bad fortune there, because Richards heads it on and has the unwanted assist, right? And he takes advantage of it. So once he's done it once, how come we haven't got anyone sticking with Calvert-Lewin, just making sure that they stick with him? Because he's the danger man. He's the fox in the box. He's now scored 6 goals in 5 league games. It was 5 in 5 for him when he was at that point. So why didn't we stop him? And it's the worst time to concede. It must have been like a blow to the, the solar plexus, to concede a goal at that time and go 2-0 down. I don't know what. I mean, I was watching on television in a pub, but I get in the ground. You must have been beside yourself, Paul Gear.
Yeah, it's infuriating because, as Tim said, it was a silly throw on to give away. We know at that point they'd had so many long throws that they were troubling. I think the problem is Leeds had a giant team. They had so many tall 6'4", 6'4", whatever. So the centre backs were all marking them. Adam Wharton was obviously assigned to do Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He wouldn't have been with him both times if that wasn't the case. We just didn't win the first knock on ball ever, and if we did, it went the wrong way. So it was zonal marking, whatever. Yeah, it was Adam Wharton's man both time. Unfortunately, he sort of slammed the ball into the net after the second goal. So it's to me, there's a lot of mental fatigue because we're normally very reliable at the back, but Leeds were very focused on their set pieces, hence scoring from all 4 of them. It's a tough thing to combat.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was just going to add. I mean, this isn't the reason we lost at all, but the referee also did not have a good game. Basically, he didn't give us anything really, apart from bookings, and also because we had Mark and Max both on bookings, and that's not your ideal, really. And it was just everything. I mean, he, as you'll get to later on, he even wanted to give them a penalty that was so far out the area, it was unreal. Yeah. So I don't think that helped. That wasn't the reason we lost. The reason we lost, we weren't good enough. But he was dreadful as well.
Thank you. Yes, Tim, carry on, mate.
Yeah, so I'll say something at the end because it's half time. So second half started. The immortal Palace life. You're always hopeful. Can we pick it up? Can we improve? No. And it's interesting because I've seen various comments about the substitutions and when they were made. And I think Ian Lyon said it very true. The substitutions were way too late and they were the wrong substitutions. I mean, at 2-0 down at half time, if you want anything for the game, I would say you change it. But I don't think, no matter what changes we made, just the way it was going, the way we were playing, I don't think we would have got back. So anyway, second half is ongoing, much the same. And again, on 60 minutes, and it was Ampadu, I think it was. I mean, it was another corner, ball was kind of cleared, and it was just a hope pass back into a crowded box. And it was like all the Palace defenders just kind of stopped and didn't react and just watching. And the ball came through to Ampadu, right through all of them, and he just swiveled and scored. I don't think you can blame Henderson at all for it. But I mean, you look how many Palace players there are that where the flight of the ball would have come, and none of them reacted. They all then, and when he scored, they all just stopped and looked at each other, and it's like
7 Palace players inside the 18-yard box.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So there you go, 3-0. Obviously, even more, the game over. So the subs started happening on 65 minutes when Sosa came on for Klein. And bless his heart, old Nathaniel Klein, he's great servant for us. But yeah, he gave us nothing. Well, not many of them did that game. But as I said, the fact that Sosa wasn't starting and that Klein was, has to say I question his future at the club, because I think Glasner obviously doesn't fancy him, to be fair, and he hasn't really done much to change that, I think. And then like the game's going on, and then finally on 77 minutes, Uche and Devaney come on, replace Mateta and Eddie. And Uche, I'm not too sure what to make of him. I'm becoming more a fan. I mean, he's come on, he scores goals. He makes things happen. He's not always the finished article, and he loses the ball a lot, but he does make things. And like from when him and Devaney came on yesterday, we looked a slightly different side. I'd say we were a lot more threatening, or certainly going through the paces of trying to be more threatening. And then on 86 minutes, Drake's Thomas comes on for Pino, and again, for the few minutes he's on, he's playing well, and we get a penalty. Pretty cast iron penalty on 92 minutes, I think it was. And yeah, well taken penalty from Devaney, no problems at all. But of course, we give a silly free kick away. The wall was supposed to jump, and I think basically their feet didn't leave the ground. Poor old Henderson in goal didn't have a chance. The wall should have stopped that. They didn't, and it's 4-1, game over. And it's, you know, I think like Glasner said in his post-match interview, our last 4 defeats were down to goals given away at set pieces. So it's not a new thing. It's not the first time. You know, it's not like we're saying, oh, the defence has been brilliant all season and one game. This is kind of happening more and more. Ian, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's fair what you've just said there, Tim. Described the goals. There was a time, wasn't there, on about 96, 97 minutes where we hit the post as well.
Yes.
It was almost carbon copy of the Devaney goal against KuPS. It was Lerma that put the ball into the box. Devaney gets his head on it and it hits the post. Really unlucky. That's 3-2. You know, you dare to dream, don't you? You know, but it wasn't. Sosa, poor challenge. And, you know, you think, oh, we got away with one there. No penalty, despite the fact that ref gave it. But look, you know, that wall isn't going to stop it because he managed to get the ball up and over. So they jumped. I don't think they could have jumped much higher. And Dino, that was covering that side of the goal. He was covering the other side. So you got to take your hat off for the free kick. But I think sometimes when the pressure is off, like if that had been 1-1 at that time, would that guy have been able to execute it like that? Because the pressure would have been on him more. Fact is, it didn't matter whether he scored or not. You know, they won the game 3-1. I was just saying, blow the bloody whistle, you know, at that stage. But he gets it up and over. It's a good free kick. So it makes the scoreline. I actually think they probably deserved it, Leeds, you know, because there was a time I put in a message in the group, you know, we could have been 6-0 down. You know, they had the chances. That one where they put the cross in and Dino saved it off the line and there was a real melee in the box. You know, they should have scored that one, really. So there were other chances that Leeds had. That it could have been really embarrassing. It was embarrassing enough, but it could have been far worse, actually.
Paul?
Yeah, I think going back to Tim's comment, he's right. We have letting a lot of goals and set pieces, and it's something we'll come on to. Set pieces are the one part of a football game where you have time to reset and get back into the marking positions everywhere you're supposed to be. So it's all about concentration. And one of the first things that goes is concentration when you have mental fatigue. Now, we're going to come on to this. We've played 7 games in the last 21 days. Okay, the first team was pretty much rested for one of them. So you could argue we've played 6 games in 20. That's still a pretty heavy workload with travelling involved and all that sort of stuff. And I think the fact, as Tim says, it's the last 4 games. up to that point, we hardly let any set pieces in. So it's not a coincidence that this is happening now, when I think there's a lot of mental fatigue in the team. And I think we've got to be careful not to overreact. Yes, I mean, I was at the game last night and I was fuming, Yasmin, I'll tell you that. During the 90 minutes, you get like that. But I'm quite good again, a bit stepping back and having a bit more perspective after a game and sort of trying to work things out. And it happens. Every team has bad games. Every team will have a shocker. I thought the manager should have made a change, as Tim said, but at half time, their third goal was coming. We didn't change anything. He had a pretty shocker, which he's admitted himself.
You admitted that. Yeah,
he did.
Everything went wrong, and that happens. And when that happens, you have a disaster class of a game, a fiasco, and it all went like that. And I think we mustn't overreact to that. It's not happened much under Oliver Glasner.
Overreaction, no. But I am going to jump in and ask you as a question. I'm sorry to throw you under the bus. Kamada, Sarr, and Munoz. How badly are we missing them? I know you wanted to make a point as well.
Yeah, we're missing them really badly. Munoz particularly, because, well, he's one of my favourites anyway, but he's just he's defending, he's scoring, he's everywhere. He's got all that energy that literally no one on the pitch yesterday seemed to have any of it. Obviously, Sarr, Paul said it yesterday quite a few times that we had nothing really up front, which seemed really silly given that we had three, didn't we? We had Nketiah, we had Mateta, and we had Pino. But none of them were doing anything. And that's why we thought Uche may come on, because he's very keen. You can see that he is. No, he doesn't always get it right, but he's always chasing things, and that's how he got that penalty. So, it was just really awful, and I've forgotten why I put my hand up now.
Listen, but yeah, it's you guys I feel sorry for that had to make that trip up there, and worse than that, make that trip down at the end of it. Tim?
Yeah, I think I'm as guilty as anybody. In fact, I had a conversation with an Arsenal fan at work when we were talking about the upcoming game and the fixtures. And Ian Lyons, again, I hate saying this, was right earlier on when we were talking, in that at the end of the day, they're just human beings. And it's a very high-pressure world that they're in. And it is high performance. And yes, they get paid a ton of money and they're incredibly fit, but it's still a hell of a load on them. And how many of us go through a whole year of work, not making any mistakes, being 100% all the time?
We're going to come on to that shortly, Timbo, as you know. Yaz, I think the light just came on. You remember what you're going to say there?
Yeah, I think it was when you were talking about maybe it was Ian, not to overreact with the loss. I think it's because of how successful we have been. Yeah. Now I seem to react worse to a loss than I would have done, say, 2 seasons ago, because we're kind of not as used to it as we were before. And so we do have to remember that we're not going to win every game. And we are sometimes going to be defeated heavily. I think with Man City, that was understandable. I think what annoyed me was that I personally don't think we should have been losing by that amount to Leeds. That was what annoyed me at the time.
What you're really saying, Yaz, is you're saying the expectation is there to win games.
Yeah.
You visit a place like Ellen Road. If you visited Ellen Road, I don't know, I'm going back to when they were really good. You wouldn't expect to get anything out of that fixture. But, last time we went to Ellen Road, we won 5-1. So, but we had Elise and Eze in our team who teamed up for the goals. So the expectation, the newly promoted side, you expect to win the game. By the way, you've got some fan mail in there, Yaz. Tell them again, mother. You're looking good, Yaz.
I saw it.
Alice Rose, you brought the average age of our viewing figures down by loads. Alice,
you are welcome, Alice. Love you out there.
Listen, I wanted you to comment a little bit about the players we're missing, particularly Munoz. There was an occasion which we didn't mention in the game. Well, it was 0-0. There was a lovely move, actually. It's probably our best move of the game, where Wharton backheels it to somebody and he plays it through to Mateta and he feeds Nketiah in and gets his shot away on the edge of the box. A better ball would have been to play it wide to Klein right, where Klein was unmarked to get a better shot away. If that had been Munoz, I think he plays the ball. I think he probably looks up, sees it's Klein, he says, I'll have a shot anyway. I don't know, probably not. But Munoz will give you more confidence in that position than Nathaniel Klein.
Thank you. Before I hand over to you, Paul, Paul Bristow, yes, I've seen your comment in the chat. One slap owed, okay? Paul Gear.
Yeah, as I say, I think the word I'm going to use quite a lot of in this show is perspective. I mean, Yaz is right. You look at the league table and you look at the first 11s on paper. We should be going to certainly not getting tonked by Leeds. We should certainly give them a game and probably beat them. But as I say, you can look. All teams have these days. Liverpool lost 3-0 home to Nottingham Forest recently, and Leeds. To be fair, they've just beaten Chelsea. They've just drawn with Liverpool. They've given Man City a scare at the Etihad. They're on a good run of form, and so it's never that straightforward. And as you say, it's one of those games. 8-9 times out of 10, we'll get a decent result out of them. But you run into these matches, as I say, they're on the crest of a wave. As I say, we've got some issues with injuries, tiredness, all sorts of stuff. I know I'm making excuses, and I don't like excuses, but they are also facts. We are playing. Max Lequar's played more minutes this season than anyone else in the Premier League. Crystal Palace have played more games than any other team in the Premier League, and we will catch up with them. And now, what we do about that is what we're going to come on to shortly.
Right now, in actual fact, let's use that as a segue. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be talking for the next few minutes, and then once I've spoken, I will shut up. Let's make it absolutely perfectly clear. What I'm about to talk about has nothing to do with yesterday's result, because Paul's quite right. A bit of perspective is necessary. We've had the best season ever, okay? Our best season ever. We're up in the top echelons of the Premier League at the moment, okay? We've won 2 cups. We've had the best manager in our history. So the rant I'm about to go on has nothing to do with Oliver Glasner. It certainly has nothing to do with our current squad of players and to do with any of the players. This is nothing personal to any of them. Folks, my opinion, okay, and I'm sick of Red and Blue Reviews sitting on the fence, and we have sat on the fence a lot recently saying, oh, we must back the board and everything else. This is my opinion, and I'm going to raise it. Okay. We had the opportunity, not this summer just gone, the summer before, to back our manager, the best manager that we have ever had. He wanted particular signings done early. We neglected to do it. We are culpable. Okay, we are responsible.
Hang on a minute. You talking about? Hang on. I just want to clarify something. You're not talking about the summer just gone. You're talking about the summer before that, are you?
His first summer in charge, he wanted.
Okay,
that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Then let's bring it forward to the summer just gone. Once again, he made it clear that he's not going to have a debacle like we had before, and he's going to get the players in to bring them on for our pre-season, okay? And we neglected to do so. We did support him in 1 or 2 players, I grant you. Now, my feeling is this winter transfer window that is coming up, there is no way in God's earth are we going to back this manager. Okay, why would we as a club spend, let's say we haven't got 50 or 60 million pounds to blow on a group of players, but let's just say for argument's sake, we were going to go and blow 50 million quid on new players to bolster our threadbare squad that the current board are responsible for, by the way. It's not going to happen. They're not going to do it. The reason they're not going to do it, because we all know, okay, and don't be deluded in thinking that on January the 15th, Glasner's going to sit down and say this, okay, thank you for supporting me over the last 18 months. I'm going to sign my new contract now. It ain't going to happen. So with that in mind, why would the board invest 50 million quid in a bunch of new players for the incoming manager, whoever he may not even fancy? They ain't going to do it. It's going to be give his heads a wobble. It's just not going to happen. We need to start pinning the ownership, not on the manager. He's gone. Glasner will go. Okay. There is no. I would put.
You can't say that. You can't make those sweeping statements like that because it's just conjecture.
Okay. Well, back it up with what you're saying, because I'll back it up with what I'm saying. I will put 50 quid of my money down, saying, come the end of the season, Oliver Glasner will not, and I'll put it to the charity of your choice. Okay. Oliver Glasner, because the incompetence of our board, will not sign down for another contract. If I'm wrong, I'll be proud to offer your charity of your choice 50 quid. If he does, if it's the other way, back up what you're saying. I can't predict the future. I can only tell you what's happened in the past. We screwed up as a club royally.
Do you really think that Oliver Glasner's going to leave just because we haven't brought those players in that he really wanted?
Yes, because he's got
Oliver Glasner's track
exactly
record. Oliver Glasner's track record as a manager has always been to only stay at a club for 2 seasons. Wolfsburg, Frankfurt. He only ever stayed there for 2 seasons. So why should it be any different at Palace anyway?
But why did he only stay there? Because he wasn't supported in the transfer window. We knew that before he even joined. Yet
Paul's
we've
doing
done the
his
same
best
thing.
Boy Scout impersonation. Let Paul speak.
Go on, Paul.
Yeah, so okay, right, Nick. Okay. Firstly, you're right. Oliver Glasner will leave if he's not backed. And I don't think anyone in the Crystal Palace Football Club could complain about that. So that's the first step. Now, everyone who watches this show knows my view on transfer windows. I think we should, if we're going to buy players, which I think they try to or whatever, you do it in the first week. And Oliver Glasner wants them in early for his training. There's no mess about waiting until the last minute. You're going to buy them, get them in early. That's the thing. So I've always said that, and that is my biggest criticism of this board, and that is obviously a manager criticism as well. What I will say though is I think you're a bit harsh on them, Nick, because I've done a bit of looking back today because I knew the show was coming up, and if you look at the windows we've had with Oliver Glasner, I don't think they're quite. The last summer we've just had, yes, was catastrophic, which we'll come on to. The one before that, you said he wasn't back the year before. I'll give you a list: Kamada, Riyad, Sarr, Turner, Chalobah, Lacroix, Ketia. Now, they were all okay. We lost a couple of players as well. Obviously, Elise we were going to lose anyway. Anderson, we chose to let leave. But that was not a bad window. And I think if we go back to the show after that window and rewatch it, I think most of us would say, actually, in the end, they came good. Yes, they should have all been in earlier because obviously we had the players at the Euros, we had the players at the Olympics. No doubt they should have been earlier. But that window wasn't too bad. We then also added SA and Chilwell to that in January. We ended up winning the cup. So ultimately, the board will say the strategy was correct. Like I say, they did it, in my opinion, they did wrong because they waited too long and it could have been better with that. So that's just my thing. Now you come onto this window, and I completely agree. We're in a new situation, and I said this at the time. We only have one man in this club who has any European experience. That was Oliver Glasner. So when he says what is needed for a European campaign, he should have been listened to. Now, we did buy players, but they were ultimately, and I said this at the time, we were net one player up, which was ridiculous.
Like for like, weren't they?
We bought 5 players in, 4 were to replace equivalents. So to go into the season with a whole extra tournament with 1 extra player was ridiculous. Now, the good thing about this now is Oliver Glasner has been proved correct. In a lot of ways, he's been proved correct because we've got loads of games. We haven't got the players. We haven't got cover for injuries. So it's now up to the board. Now, they have got 2 options. They can try and persuade him to stay by actually backing him and doing what he wants. And if he does, there is a chance he will stay. I think that everything's going well from here. He's built a side. They all love him. He loves it, apparently. He's not just going to walk away necessarily. Yes, if he's not backed, he will. So this is key. And to me, there's talk about Brendan Johnson and all that. We're going to have Munoz and Sarr back by the end of January. So it's no good buying him on anyone on the 31st of January. In the first week of the transfer window, he needs 3 players. Now, you then run into another issue, which I've said on various chats today. The quality of player we can buy is questionable simply because if we're not going to sign a top quality right back, because he will know if Daniel Munoz is fit, he's going to play. This is what we found with Ben Chilwell. Ben Chilwell didn't want to sign for us in the summer because he knew he wasn't going to play. And that's the kind of equivalent you want as a like-for-like recovery. So that's a different debate. But certainly he needs 3 players because even in January, we've got 5 or 6 games on the horizon. That's even if we don't beat Arsenal. So it's quite key what he does there. So it'd be interesting to see what other people in the chat think about the sort of strength of the windows we've had. Now, as I say, don't get me wrong, they should do it early and get it done, dusted, so he's happy. But it's all it's balls in everyone's court at the moment.
I'm going to come to you guys in a second. My honest opinion is we are, even if we did buy a couple of players early in the transfer window, it's horse and bolted. Okay, I think the decision with the manager has already been made in his own mind. Why has he not put pen to paper? Okay, well, we'll find out. We'll put your money where your mouth is. You keep saying
I'm not saying he's definitely going to stay, but why
put my money where my mouth is? Back it up.
Paul's argument is far more reasoned. You know, the fact that if we do back him in this window and we go on to, I don't know, reach the Carabao Cup final, make the last 4 or the final of the Conference League, and we have a great season and the feel-good factors there, why would he want to walk away? Why wouldn't he sign another deal? I'm not saying he will. I'm not saying he won't. but there's a good reason why he should stay.
Okay, fair enough. And you're entitled to your opinion. That's it.
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is everyone keeps saying the board won't back. The problem that we've got is it's a very old business where you have an owner who is by far the smallest share owner or a part owner of an organisation is the one who ultimately makes the decisions. So it's ultimately down to him. We all know that he likes a bargain, which is why he never goes for players at the beginning of a transfer window. It's always towards the end, trying to get them cheaper. That's the problem. Now, if we listen to Oliver Glasner, he says he hasn't spoken about his future until next month. So let's wait and see. I mean, I doubt he'll stay because I don't have any confidence that Parish will do what is needed. It's also not how much you spend, it's what you spend on. I think we're a classic example of that. But the problem is, yes, like Paul said, players were brought in, but there's no point bringing players in who aren't good enough, who the manager obviously has no faith in and won't play them until, there is no one left. So it's not all over.
We will be continuing this in a minute. We're going to sort of have a little break here because I'm going to bring Paul in and then I'm going to ask Nigel to bring up the upcoming fixtures, and there is a reason for it. Paul, continue, mate.
Yeah, just on that one. Oliver Glasner did say recently he approved every signing. So that is that. So he obviously okayed Sosa. As I say, I know we said about him not playing yesterday, but he's a left back. So I'm not ultimately surprised he didn't start a right back. But that's another issue. But yeah, it's and in terms of the board structure, the CAS thing that came out recently when they announced the stuff, it turns out, yes, Steve Parish has the lowest shareholder, but they all have 25% of the say. Now, again, playing devil's advocate here, if you're David Blitzer or Josh Harris, who own basketball clubs, who own ice hockey clubs, who own NFL clubs, they may well say, Steve, you know this more better than us, you deal with it. It's not necessarily them being ruled over by Steve Parish, and the new guys come in. He's a New York Jets owner, so it's a joint effort. Hence why we got screwed over at CAS, because it was proved that Steve Parish couldn't just go and do what he wanted.
Good. Okay. Now the reason I'm asking Nigel to bring the fixtures up, the upcoming fixtures up. Paul, off the top of your head, the next round of the FA Cup, not the Macclesfield game. When is the next round of the FA Cup after the Macclesfield game, please?
It's the start of February.
Thank you. Right, so I'm casting your eyes over this, folks, okay? And for those of you listening back on the podcast, the fixtures are the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup against Arsenal on the 23rd, of course. Then home to Spurs, home to Fulham on the 1st of January, away at Newcastle, okay? And bear in mind this short timescale between all these games, home to high-flying, record-making Aston Villa at the moment, and then the FA Cup game against Macclesfield. My concern, okay, and I am voicing a concern, and that's all it is, that we could easily, with our threadbare squad, and that's the reason why I'm talking about it tonight, the threadbare squad easily go out the Carabao Cup against Arsenal, and it will be no disgrace if we did, okay? Then points-wise, leave it up a second, Nige. Leave it up a second, Nige, because I'm looking at the league games. League games, Spurs, Fulham, Newcastle and Villa. You could argue that there'd be difficult to see any wins within that. Fulham possibly. Spurs have got two suspensions coming their way against Palace, okay, which is a bonus to us. If I'm concerned. Macclesfield, I don't worry about, and I think we'll go through to the next round of the Cup. But by mid-February, potentially we could be out of both cups. We could be out of Europe, okay, and we could be languishing for our current position in mid-table. Am I being too pessimistic, ladies and gents?
Yeah, you are. You are being
Yasmin?
pessimistic.
Well, yeah, because I mean, even Aston Villa fans would be worried about playing us, even on their current form, just because of what we seem to be their bogey team. I mean, yes, we might not get anything at Newcastle because we rarely do, but you never know. But we can beat Fulham, we can beat Villa. I personally, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, I'm just not sure about this whole Europe thing It's been a great thing for the club, but I would have preferred to have beaten Leeds and been out of Europe personally. Because also, but then you've got the other problem which Paul pointed out to me. I want to go for a higher league position, which will put us back in Europe again, but maybe a better Europe, arguably. I don't know, but yeah, I think we can win some of those games.
And that's why I love having you on the show, because you give a balanced view. Yes, thank you, Paul.
Oh, I love this conversation. I had it with my dad earlier. As I said, I've had it with loads of people. It's brilliant. I think it's good to put some comparisons in here. So everyone's, as I say, there's a lot of overreaction at the moment and saying that things aren't going well. And yes, there's things that we know need improving, and if they don't improve, then they need shooting. I'm not gonna hide from that. It's fine. But this is our first ever time in Europe. It's new to the club. It's new to everything. And if you look at other teams' runs in Europe and stuff, and West Ham, they won this competition a few years ago. After 17 games of their season, when they were coping with this competition, they were 17th and they ended up finishing 15th. Burnley a few years ago got a first season in Europe. After 17 games, they were 17th. They finished 15th. That's after finishing 7th the year before. So it's a clear difference with all the extra games. Leicester, when they won the Premier League in 16, they went into the Champions League for the first time. They ended up sacking their manager in February because they were in danger of going down. It will always have an effect on your league form. Now, when you look at Palace, to be fair, before yesterday's game, we were 5th. With all this in mind. So to have done that, you have to say it's more credit to the players, the management, everything. They now have a chance to kick on, and this is where the ball will become culpable, and they'll become they have got a chance. Like I say, we can actually kick on here, get some players in, hope the manager enjoys that and stays it, and build on what we've got doing, because we are building from a much better base than those other clubs who are in their first European campaigns and things like that. So it's not all doom and gloom in that respect, but it's up to us. This is the bit now. It's up to us. We can either let it fade, and like you say, Nick, if we don't bring the players in, if existing players will grind to a halt and the season will fizzle out. But the board have lucked out here. They didn't back us in the summer, and they've lucked out that we're in this position now where we're still in 4 competitions. And if we go for it, we can do something. But yeah, they could have been sat like West Ham that year. We could have been 15th right now, and everyone would have just been, the season would be a write-off. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in January. If they've got ambition and they want us to kick on and really do it, it's down to them.
Ian.
Yeah, I mean, what's that all about? Yeah, I've forgotten my train of thought now for a minute. Goodness me, where was I going? Come back to me.
Tim, did you want to raise any points on that?
Well, Paul's absolutely right. But I think what sums it up is, I think it was after the United game or maybe in the City game, I can't remember. And he was interviewed and he was asked about Europe. And he said, what should have happened is, here we are, first ever season in Europe, FA Cup champions. Then was the time to invest in the squad and actually go for it and have a real go. And that didn't happen. So it's like you said, this month or the next month, this transfer window is massive. And like you said, the board, or they might surprise us. So it's a case of keep positive and then see what happens this time next month.
Ian, you got your train of thought back?
Look, we've got to just hang on in there, haven't we? You know, we've got this January window to look forward to. We've got to make sure that we get some players in. We can't change what's happened. You know, we can't. There's no point talking about we should have done this, we should have done that last summer. It's been and gone. You know, it could have been a lot worse. We could have sold Mark Gahey. We didn't. We kept him. That's well documented. You know, Paul talked about other teams struggling in Europe. I mean, you didn't mention Tottenham last season. They won the Europa League, but they finished 17th in the Premier League. If it wasn't the fact that there were 3 really bad teams, they could have got relegated. So, you know, we've got to put it all in perspective. And the fact that we're doing well in the Premier League, it was only a couple of weeks ago when we had 2 back-to-back away wins. You know, we were riding high. I think we'd won 3 away games on the spin.
Okay, so with that, guys, with all of that in mind, and I think what's hurting me more than anything else is not saying this is nothing to do with yesterday's result. What's hurting me more than anything else is reading the social media comments from Forest lot. Okay, laughing. You must be having.
Don't read them.
I tell you, it drives me nuts because, but they're actually making valid points. We couldn't even beat a pub team to get into the last 8 of the Europa. So what into the Conference League? So what why are we banging on about not getting to the Europa League? Right. Okay. A little Paul. Before I come to you, a little reset from you four. Okay. So we know because we did a prediction show at the beginning of the season. Can you remember what you guys actually put down for at the beginning of the season? Quarterfinals, semi-final of the cup, and a league position. I'm more interested in knowing where we are 17 games in. Okay, on match day 38, where do you think we will be in the league? Okay, I know what I predicted at the beginning of the season because I just knew this season will be one step too far. Okay, with the amount of players that we had, the squad availability that we had, and the fact that we were current. Go on, Paul. You go first. You got your cups down.
I want to just come back to you. I think you said we finished 17th or something. Did you?
16th.
16th. Did you think we'd be 5th at the start of the 20th of December?
Absolutely not. And I'm still proud of the fact that we are, but we just know this is not sustainable because of the squad and the reason we're having this conversation. Over to you, mate.
But yeah, we have a chance to address that. And as I said, we just said we hope we are. I think I predicted 10th, and I think I said quarterfinals in both cups. And I'm probably going to stick to that, to be honest. As I say, we got to get some realism as well. When you're in Europe, it's great to be flirting with the top 5 like we have been, and get into Europe. I mean, as I say, I've never been a big dreamer of Europe. I must admit. To me, it's a drag on your league form. It's all sorts of stuff. I would have happily taken the trophy last year without a European thing. But football is all about progression. And if you want to progress as a club, you need to be in Europe to attract better players, to get more money. Now, as Yaz has said, and we were talking about it on the trip, it'd be great to finish in Europe again, but you then have the same problem again. Okay, you might have a year more experience that you can try and better that. But to me, and as I say, I love reading on social media. We've loved our trips in Europe, and I've loved reading everyone saying, "Oh, it's a dream come true. I've got to an away game," and there's a lot of that to it. But I'm not going to lie. I've never dreamt of playing Larnaca and Zrinski and KuPS. It's the European experience has been so watered down. They've changed it all now that every decent club you'd ever want to play in Europe, a Milan, a Barcelona, they're all in the top competition, and even the Europa League, and it's just an also-rans competition now. So, to me, it's not a big thing. But if you want to finish higher in the league, you're going to get that as an outcome. But yeah, I think if our first European campaign and we ended up 10th, I think then I'm going to stick with that. I think.
Good, Yasmin. Can you remember what you predicted and what you predicted now for the rest of the season?
I think I went quite high with my prediction, if I remember. I must have been still on the FA Cup champagne, but I think I said something. It was either 6th or 4th, and I said we would win the Carabao Cup. And I think I said we'd win the Conference League as well. So I'm not so sure about that now. But
Tim, can you remember what you said?
I can't. I think it was either 8th or 9th. I thought in the league and quarterfinal maybe in the cups.
And Ian,
yeah, I think I said 8th in the Premier League, and maybe a Carabao Cup final or something like that. But look, you said, Nick, earlier we could be out of the FA Cup by early February. Well, actually, the fourth round is the 14th of February, right? That's the first thing. Second thing is that the Conference League games aren't until the end of February. 26th is the second leg. So, it goes to the end of February and, then we might be out of competitions, but we could be in those competitions. And I think we will be in those competitions. I think we'll have enough to beat this Bosnian team over 2 legs. Good. The chances are we don't get a big club in the 4th round of the FA Cup. We've got to beat Macclesfield first, of course. But the probability is we don't. We might do. But if we do, we give them a game, like we give everyone a game, like we gave Fulham a game, like we gave Villa a game on the way to the final last year. So, look, let's just wait and see, shall we?
Yeah, okay. Before we finish up on that, Yaz, Ian and Tim, you haven't given me your predictions for the rest of the season.
Oh, I think we'll finish 8th in the Premier League.
And cups?
Semi-final, Carabao.
Oh, thanks for that. Okay. And the FA Cup?
Quarterfinal.
Because Nigel is clipping all this for us. Yasmin?
So I think, depending on what happens in the transfer window, we could still finish 7th or 8th in the league. And I think I'm not sure we're going to get through on Tuesday, to be honest. But then I'm just feeling a downer from yesterday. So I think maybe we've gone as far as we can, and I think I agree with the other guys. Quarterfinals of the FA Cup.
Fantastic. Those of you out in the chat, Tim, I'm coming to you now. Those of you listening on the live feed, let us know, or let me know your thoughts. Where do you think we're going to end up in the 2 cups and the league? Tim, I'm going to finish off with you. Your predictions, please.
8th semi-final Carabao Cup, quarter-final FA Cup.
And the league, sorry, and the league.
Well, you copied me exactly, Tim. So well done.
Did I? Well,
we agree on something.
On the league, sorry, I didn't hear what you said on the league, mate. 8th in the league. Yeah. Right, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to know your thoughts. Put them in the chat because Nigel will compile them. He's got a spreadsheet going. You know Nenny and his spreadsheets. He does like a low spreadsheet. Folks, it's exactly 9 o'clock. And you've got a Christmas to go to, all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of everybody here at the Red and Blue Review, we will be back on Monday, the 29th of December at 8 o'clock. Look, another Monday night, guys. And on behalf of all of us here, and especially to the team from me personally, I wish you a very Merry Christmas. Thank you for everything you've done for the podcast this year, all of you. And that includes you, Nigel, and Greg, and Lucy, and even Jill, to a lesser degrees, if you're watching Holyoke. On behalf of myself, Nick Philpott, and the rest of the team, Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll see you on the other side. Take care. Good night, everyone.
Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.